Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this briefing on the CrowdStrike strike, what went wrong and how to make sure you're not involved in strike 2. This is me. I'm Alan Calder. I'm your host for this afternoon. I've been in and around the world of cybersecurity and privacy for some 20-odd years, written a whole bunch of books, some of which some of you may have read. And my company, IT Governance, has been at the forefront of helping organizations deal with cybersecurity and privacy issues for just about as long. Our expertise helps many of our clients to peace of mind. The incredible range of certifications, accreditations, and recognitions we have is part of the way in which we demonstrate our continuous commitment to quality and service to all of our clients. So we don't just say we do a good job, we actually do a good job. And I'm going to talk today about the CrowdStrike outage. I'm going to try and encapsulate a number of key lessons into just under about 10 or 12 minutes, so there's a bit of time left over for some questions at the end. And you will have noticed that you're all on mute. That's because I want to try and get through this without too much background noise and disruption. But if you find you do have a question, please do ask it. And the way to ask it is to go into the question function in your go-to webinar. Up in the top ribbon, there is a screen. There is what looks like a computer screen with a question mark in it. If you click on that, it will open up the Q&A screen and you can type your question into the box there. And when we come to the Q&A section, what I'll do is I'll go to that and I'll share the question, and then to the best of my ability, I will answer it. So, analysis of the CrowdStrike outage, what went wrong and lessons learned. And this is not really a webinar about what went wrong from the CrowdStrike perspective. I mean, who would want to be in the shoes of the CrowdStrike CEO right now? The share price has gone from $343 on the eve of the outage back on the 18th of July. Currently, today it's sitting at $226. That's a 34% decrease in the share price of what should be a leading cybersecurity business. The CEO has to go and talk to Congress, and there is already one shareholder lawsuit launched alleging that the negligence and misleading by the management led to the share price being overpriced and therefore damages being sought. The possibility that at least one airline will bring a class action suit, and it looks as though misery from the point of view of CrowdStrike is not yet past. But what happened? Well, it's not a cyber outage. That's the number one thing to bear in mind. This was a multi-day, multi-sector cloud service outage brought about through basic error. It's not a cyber attack, an internal error during an automatic update deployment. CrowdStrike provides support for cybersecurity services for a very wide number of key businesses. About 8.5 million organizations were affected by this breach, and a routine update to their Falcon sensor included a faulty configuration. And that configuration, when deployed, automatically deployed in most cases, because most organizations go, why not? It's coming from CrowdStrike, it should be fine, and it automatically gets deployed. But the configuration file meant that the logic error in the configuration file meant that as organizations logged on, Windows crashed, and that led to blue screen of death in an ongoing loop. You couldn't log off, relog back on and get anything other than the blue screen of death. So it was a disaster for 8.5 million organizations and everybody else who'd gone to the airport or to the docks or to the shops or anything else, to the doctors, to the hospital, expecting that they would be able on that day to get on with doing whatever it is they had planned to do. But they couldn't because of this disaster. It wasn't just a disaster that, because it was an error, could be put right quickly. It took a lot of time to identify what the error was, roll out a correction, and in many cases, organizations had to manually reboot thousands of servers. It's not an easy thing to recover from. So the question that one has to be asking oneself is not what went wrong. It's fairly easy to go see what went wrong. It was a faulty update, and the faulty update through inadequate testing. The CEO has admitted that testing was automated and that the testing wasn't sufficiently thorough, as a result of which the update was pushed out to all of its subscription customers globally. Those organizations had set their systems to automatically install updates because, hey, that's what you're supposed to do. You automatically install updates, so there isn't an opportunity for attackers to take advantage of the gap between an update being pushed out and the point at which you get around to manually installing it. But hey, there's the risk. A faulty update instantly means you've got a problem. And if you're not expecting it, if your business continuity planning hasn't prepared for that, you are instantly in trouble. So the key lessons to learn from it is that you need suppliers to have rigorous testing protocols, but you can't rely on it. This is a kind of a situation where you have to hope for the best but prepare for the worst. And preparing for the worst is, well, my supplier is supposed to rigorously test, but what happens if they don't? So you need to be thinking about which updates do we automatically deploy, which ones do we test, and which ones do we test in the sandbox environment as distinct from testing, obviously, in the live environment, and how do we handle that? So maybe you've got to think about a method of risk assessing which updates you can deploy quickly, which ones you have to manually review first. So perhaps a hybrid approach that ensures that you can approve a update manually and then push it out automatically, but you've got to think from your point of view of how you're not going to be caught in this kind of a thing another time. But as with all these kinds of plans, you also have to assume that whatever you do will have a fault or something go wrong. So you need a crisis management plan which has these kinds of outages automatically escalated through a crisis management or incident management software component that enables it to be pushed up to the level of people who understand what's happening, who can trigger the automatic emergency response to deal with it as quickly as possible. And you need to have tested your responses. You need to know before you're dealing with it how you're going to deal with it. If you've done that, then of course prompt communications, you want prompt communications from CrowdStrike, you want prompt communications from Microsoft, who are impacted by CrowdStrike, and you want clear communications to all your customers and all your customers' customers. But you can only do that if you've prepared for the outage. So working out what can go wrong with deploying updates, and you're going to be deploying updates for the rest of your working life because our business is about software. It depends on software, so software has to be updated. So you're going to deploy updates, some of which will be critical, some of which will have logic faults or other glitches in them. How do you deal with those? What do you do if something goes wrong in spite of the plans you made? Crisis management, effective communications. Of course, once something goes wrong, it's no good just simply going, well, we've got a good remediation plan. We know how to deal with that. Because, of course, what you've also got is cyber criminals. Cyber criminals who are quick, they're agile, they are highly literate, and they can produce new code and new attacks very, very quickly. So as CrowdStrike and Microsoft start producing detailed technical guidance to help customers restore their systems, so in parallel, cyber criminals are hard at work issuing detailed guidance on how to repair and restore systems and to upload malware, infostealer malware, targeting credentials and other sensitive data, and other malware as part of the malicious guidance which they're giving you on how to recover. And of course, preparing for that, knowing as you are dealing with something which you're not expecting, it's new, however much you've prepared, the specific instance that happens will be new to you. You need to make sure that tech team that's going to be in charge of finding out how to repair and recover understands how to deal only with the genuine update advice and deploys that. So verifying authenticity of recovery instructions, being cautious of any unsolicited communications, all of those critical components of remediation. So those are the key lessons to learn. If you go back and look at your business continuity plan, business continuity plans always have 6 key steps. So preparation, develop and maintain an IRP, an incident response plan that has documented all of the things that can go wrong. So think through the risks, work out how these kinds of automated deployments are going to impact the business, think them through, work out a way to deal with them, practice the drills, and then put in place processes for monitoring what might go wrong. You don't want to be finding out that you've deployed a piece of software updates that triggers a blue screen of death because you have your customer support line overwhelmed by customers complaining. You need to put in place monitoring systems that identify much sooner, like instantly if possible, that something has gone wrong. So detecting and then containing the incident, working out how you can isolate affected systems to prevent further damage. And that means that the faster your detection systems work, the faster you can deploy the containment. All of that can be difficult with completely unexpected, unknown, unprepared for attacks. And so the speed with which you can investigate what has actually happened, the speed with which you can have your experienced internal staff with forensic competence or whatever is necessary investigating, identifying what happened so that you can develop an on-the-fly remediation plan and restore affected systems is critical. But not only do you have to remediate systems, you have to remediate customer impact. You've got to be talking to the customers who are impacted, and you've got to be communicating with them effectively about what it is that you're doing and how you're going about doing it. And of course, after the incident, a good time to learn, a good time to make sure that you improve for next time. So that's what you should be doing right now. Build out also right now the how do we avoid fake recovery resources, because you'll be having instances at minor levels as well as major levels. So verifying sources, teaching your staff, making sure you're using only trusted channels, identifying secure websites, trusted suppliers, cross-checking with official communication, making sure that your security controls are effective. All of those are key elements of making sure that you and your staff fall victim to fake recovery schemes. Of course, at a broader level, I'm not going to talk a lot about this because it's fairly obvious, building out compliance with international standards like ISO 27001, ISO 22301 enable you to demonstrate to your customers as well as your staff that you're doing this thing in a structured way. Across the European Union, the financial services sector has to comply with the Digital Operation Resilience Act by January next year. That's basically looking for how you deal with exactly these kinds of outages. That's why DORA. And you can get an awful lot from us about DORA, ICT-related instances, particularly those that have a sector-wide impact, are the key area that DORA is trying to avoid happening. And the combination of really good processes with effective audits, internal audits carried out often by external experts, are part of testing your systems and making sure that they are robust, that they are going to enable you to maintain business operations when the worst happens, protecting profits, protecting your share price, and thereby keeping also insurance costs down. There are a number of best practices, not ISO, just 27001, but you can drill down into defense in depth, into disaster recovery, into business continuity, and we'll share these slides with you immediately after the webinar, all areas worth your while digging into because they're part of building a resilient business, something which is able to cope with exactly these kinds of problems because they're going to happen more and more. We're launching, IT Governance is launching a cyber assessment continuity service. So it's a brand new service driven by what we've learned from seeing our clients trying to deal with the aftermath of this CrowdStrike incompetence. So it looks at areas in which you might need to be tackling cyber continuity or resilience, gives you a report on areas that you need to be able to address. And for many of our clients who we know that their IT and compliance teams are already at full stretch, we can come and we can put this together in a relatively short space of time in a way that gives you a starting point to think about how you build out a much more resilient management system. Cyber Comply is a logical component of how you build a compliant framework which has all of the benefits of a robust platform on which you can build a cyber defense in depth process that complies with and is easy to manage, drives out cost and enables you to deliver really effective compliance, really effective resilience, really effective defense in depth. A number of our customers think exactly that. Don't risk it, cyber compliant, we say. And there are a bunch of our products and services that you can turn to. And I'm not going to spend time on those because I'm aiming to get to 15 minutes. That's what we said this flash briefing would take. Do pick up afterwards. There is a lot of opportunity for you to come and explore products and services in a way we can help you avoid being part of what I think is the inevitable strike too, even if it doesn't come from CrowdStrike. So at that point, if you do have questions, as I said, in the Q&A function, the questions into that, do submit a question. What we'll do is I will go to them and I will pick out the questions. I will share the question and then share an answer. So first question, regardless of sandbox or testing, infrastructure teams do not have the final say. I'm not entirely sure what you mean by infrastructure teams not having the final say. I think it depends on where you put inside the organization the accountability for continuity of service and where you put inside the organization accountability for identifying and ensuring that updates, when you roll them out, have been tested and that they're going to be rolled out fast enough to not only be robust, but also to be in place before bad actors can take advantage of their absence. Not a question, but thank you for the constructive flash briefing. That's a pleasure. Regardless of how is the NIST framework line up? There are a number of ways you can cross-map NIST. I'm assuming you're talking about the cybersecurity framework to ISO 27001. There's a very practical way of doing that. We can talk, if you want to talk to us separately, about how we can do that. Was it a routine or critical update that was faulty? I believe it was a routine update, and that's why it went through the automated process. There wasn't the additional checking that you might express with a critical out of routine update. Does this expose an imbalance of accountability for robust operational and procedural integrity? Do we need to consider quality standards within regulatory compliance similar to GDPR breaches? Yes, I think you do. You need to think of, and it's one of the ways in which standards like ISO 9001 fit into an ISO 27001 environment. How do you ensure that the quality of service, where it has infrastructure dependencies, has been appropriately dealt with? How do you, what quality standards do you set for software integrity? Remember, information security is about CI and A, and software integrity is a key element in the overall integrity of your information system. So yes, I think you need to think about the quality aspects, the integrity aspects of all software as you roll it out. Not practical, surely, to QC all routine updates to the customer. That's absolutely right. That's why I think you need to be doing a risk assessment. You need to work out which updates are likely, if you deploy them, to have a major impact and which ones are not likely to have a major impact. And that's kind of hard. You need to understand the third-party software that you're using. You need to understand the interaction between the third-party software and your own critical systems. And, you know, if you have difficulty in understanding exactly what that interaction is, you have alternative methods. You can say, we don't know how a particular update will deploy. We don't have time and resource to check everything. We need to deploy automatically. You might then say, fine, we're going to look at how we can have an automatic rollback if something goes wrong. But it's thinking through the implications of your decisions. The cost of not doing that is significant. So for Delta Airlines, the cost is, they think, somewhere between $300 and $500 million at this point. The cost for many other organizations, not yet public, but will be substantial, being out of operation for 3, 4, 5 days in as a large organization, very painful. For a hospital, for a medical practice, being unable to deliver can be life-threatening, which also has financial implications. So thinking through all of these, I'm not suggesting it's a very straightforward, easy thing to do that lots of organizations have done, and there are easy lessons for many organizations getting started on thinking about how you're going to deal with these kinds of challenges is new. So you need to really think through, where are our risks? What are the things we can do about those risks? How can we deal with them? For a number of organizations, you go, well, whatever the risks are, we don't think we're seriously exposed. We can live with it. You have those choices, the tolerate, terminate options around risk. Those apply. You can accept it. You can say our insurance will cover us. You've got those risk decisions. The key thing is to think about them and make some intelligent decisions and stick with them, deploy them. What is the best business continuity plan for a non-profit organization? That depends very much on the size of the organization and the time and resource that you've got that you can deploy to it. ISO 22301 is at the heart of all business continuity best practice globally. It is designed so that it can be deployed both for small organizations and for large organizations. It's designed so that you can apply it to software just as much as you can to any other services. So I would start with thinking about ISO 22301 possibly as the logical standard. In a complex technology environment, there will be many updates to be applied, and the pace of updates is increasing and continues to increase with the use of AI to find defects. You're absolutely right. That is exactly the challenge we have. And so the hope for the best, prepare for the worst approach, which is the logical way to approach these kind of things, says either you're going to be facing a situation in which you're regularly going down because organizations will be using AI not only to find vulnerabilities, but AI to test them. And AI hallucinates. So you will be deploying stuff which will have a greater propensity for being wrong. So you'll have more and more things going wrong. So you've got to think about, what suppliers do we use? Can we consolidate suppliers with people where we know what their software testing routines are? Can we insist on seeing that all of our software suppliers, by definition, can demonstrate that they have secure software development lifecycle, that they have effective testing? There are a number of ways you can think about dealing with this at the upstream level, in terms of testing updates, in terms of recovery plans, in terms of size of risk, and across the whole environment, your whole software environment, your tech stack. You might have a number of areas where you go, okay, these ones we don't care about. If they go down, we lose them for a week, it doesn't matter, we can recover them. You'll have others where you go, these are critical systems. And so you can make decisions about what you're going to do in relation to your system basis of your exposure. It's, if you like, standard ISO 27001 risk management approach. It applies in a complex environment just as it does anywhere else. And it looks like I am at the end of the, there like to be a number of pretenders. This was an early question which I missed. Pretenders rising up to take advantage of CrowdStrike's poor name now. For sure, there are already organizations saying we test our technology better than CrowdStrike does. But CrowdStrike is supplying service to 8.5 million organizations, and very big ones at that. It's not going to be easy to supplant them. A lot depends on how well CrowdStrike survives the next few months, what shareholders do, what it needs to do in terms of taking in new money. A lot of that is going to be a key part of what happens in the next few months. But anybody who comes into the area has to build the same presence in the market, the same capability, and that's not easy to do. So again, there will be pretenders, but you have to assess the pretenders as you assess CrowdStrike. You've got to work out how it is that you're going to make sure that you don't fall victim to another CrowdStrike. You're not struck. It's one of the most interesting names for a security business I've ever heard. CrowdStrike strikes a crowd of people when things go wrong. There we are. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think we're done. I think that's all of the questions that there are. I hope it's been useful to you. If there is any way that we can help as an organization, please do. You can get to us on any one of our 3 website. You can talk to our experts. We can help you with cyber comply. We can help you with a cyber risk assessment, with a continuity assessment. We can help you with training. We can help you with software development lifecycle. We can help you across the whole range of things that you might need. So just give us a shout. Our job is to deploy expertise to give you and support your peace of mind. So thank you all very much. I hope you have a secure and safe rest of Thursday. Bye-bye.